I call the January 2nd Shenandoah County School Board organizational meeting to order at 7 p.m. This evening I have the invocation. As we gather this evening, let us take a moment to express our gratitude for the dedication, support, and commitment that each one of our school board members brings to our educational family. To our educators and staff, their tireless efforts, passion for teaching, and unwavering dedication to nurturing young minds create the foundation upon which our students' futures are built. The guidance and pursuit of excellence are the cornerstones of our educational journey. To our students, their enthusiasm and curiosity fill our halls with energy and possibility. Our students' thirst for knowledge, coupled with their diverse talents and unwavering determination, illuminate the path toward a brighter future. To our parents and guardians, the partnership, involvement, and support in their children's educational journey enrich our school community. Their encouragement and engagement in their children's learning are invaluable pillars of our success. Together, the collective efforts form the very fabric of our school community. Please join me in a moment of silence as we reflect on our contribution to our school community and the shared journey of learning and growth. Thank you. Let us please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
1.3, approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion to approve the agenda was made by Ms. Rutz and seconded by Mr. Barlow. Is there any discussion? Being none, all in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed 6-0. One point four, nominations for chairperson for Shenandoah County School Board. Is there a motion to nominate a chairperson for the 2024 Shenandoah County School Board?
Yes, I'd like to move to, to present a motion to nominate.
Yes, ma'am.
So we're not at the motion part yet,
No?
because that's the action, right? So right now, we'll take the nomination.
Okay.
Then the motion will be made after we take the nomination.
Okay.
Okay, so is there a nomination for the chairperson?
All right. Yeah, I'd like to nominate Dennis Barlow for chair, please.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a point of order. I have a
Yes.
question. So how are we going to do the nominations? Are we going to have nominations and the candidate speaks and then we vote, or how are we going to do this?
Yep, so we'll have nominations, and then I'm getting ready to ask if there's another nomination for
Okay.
chair, and there'll be a second for that, and if, then there'll be discussion.
Okay.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, that helps.
Okay, all right. Is there another nomination for chair? Hearing none, the nomination was made for Dennis Barlow to be chairperson for the 2024 by Brandy Rutz and seconded by Mike Rickard. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Now we need a motion, Cheryl. Is there a motion for Mr. Barlow to be the 2024 school board chair?
I place forth the motion to present Dennis Barlow as our, as the chair of our committee, please.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion is to appoint Mr. Barlow, Mr. Dennis Barlow, for the 2024 school board chair, made by Ms. Brandy Rutz. The second was by Mr. Kyle Gutshaw. Discussion? Hearing none. Ms. Jett, will you do a roll call vote?
Mr. Sharif?
Yes.
Ms. Carlenio?
Yes.
Mr. Gutshaw?
Yes.
Ms. Rhodes?
Yes.
Mr. Ricker?
Yes.
Mr. Barlow?
Yes.
I am handing the meeting over to the new chair, Mr. Barlow.
Well, thank you. And before we proceed with the businesses before us, I do want to say something about the position of chair and how I will try to fulfill it. And I'm honored by your confidence in me. I really appreciate it. I've noticed over the past 4 years, and actually before that, that the chair of the school board has often taken liberties with the position of chair and actually breaking school board norms and carrying some positions forward individually that did not have the support of the school board. And there are some other aspects like that that I personally found offensive and unhelpful. And the one thing I want to promise you is that I will do everything I can to respect the corporate nature of this board, in that I only speak as you give me leave to speak. As this board makes decisions and implements policies, those are my marching orders. I'm not in command. I'm actually reflecting the will of the group and as it moves forward. And I want to make it very clear that I adhere to the norms the way they're written at the moment, which is that each and every member of this board has ample and equal access to agenda items. And so you are all not welcome. You are responsible for bringing those things forward that you feel need our consideration. That doesn't mean all those ideas are going to pass or be implemented, but it does mean that I will be the fairest I can about making sure that everybody on this board has access to not only the agenda, but to the authority and the power that is. And there's a school of thought that they're enemies, and then there's a school of thought that that school boards are supposed to be subservient to superintendents. And those are both, as far as I'm concerned, erroneous points of view. And I'm sorry, some of you have heard this before, and I'll try to make this the last time I say it, but in the world in which I lived in the military, I was on General Colin Powell's staff. He was a 4-star general. I worked with somebody who was on General Schwarzkopf's staff. He was a 4-star general. One was a policymaker and the other was an operator. And they could not do their jobs without each other. I know General Schwarzkopf would not have done anything that General Powell thought was out of the way as far as policy is concerned. And I know that that General Powell would not have done anything that he didn't think that General Schwarzkopf thought was proper, necessary, and operational. No. We are especially lucky in Shenandoah County at having a superlative superintendent, and more than that, a superlative staff that she oversees. And I do not want either of those philosophies taking root here. And it'll be my goal to be as transparent as I can with the superintendent and staff about what we as a school board are trying to do. One other thing, there's been some suggestion at our retreat 2 years ago and at the most recent school board meeting that posits that the school board should not reflect the will of the people, but the school board should reflect a greater wisdom than those who live in the county. And I think that's just a terrible, terrible view of democracy. We are at the bottom rung of democracy. It doesn't mean we are low. It means that, to me, is the most important and the most vibrant aspect of grassroots democracy in our country. And so I take our mandate from the people very seriously. And I believe that the class that I came in with believes that, and I believe that the new class believes that as well, that we have a responsibility to our constituency. Nevertheless, I do take the point that there are times when we will know things that our constituents will not know about building programs and nuances of budgets and things like that, because we have knowledge that they don't generally have. And so there will be times when it looks like we will be in conflict with constituents. That will happen. And it's nature of the beast, and it's part of what makes democracy so interesting. But I do not, I want to make sure that you know that I take our mandate from our citizens and our stakeholders very seriously. But I also know that, and I also know that we get terrific amounts of information from the staff that allow us to make more enlightened decisions. So I think the balance between these two is important, but I think the constituent support for us and what we do is incredibly important. It's basically what democracy is all about. So I didn't want to get long-winded, sorry about that. I just want you to understand that as a board, I'm here to reflect your will and to help galvanize that will, okay, but I am not here to be your political, inspirational leader. I am here to discern what we as a corporate body believe should be the policies for our school system and to implement it to the best of our ability. So that having been said, I will move on. The next order of business is for nominations for vice chair for the 2024 Shenandoah County School Board. I'd like to hear if there are any nominations for the position of vice chair.
I'd like to nominate Kyle Gutshaw.
Any second to that nomination?
Second.
Okay. So Mr. Street, second. Any other nominations?
I would like to nominate Mike Rickard.
Okay. So,
And just a point of clarification, we actually don't need a second for the candidacies.
we don't need a second?
Yeah, for
But
anyone.
I'll ask, okay, so you're nominating Mike Rickard?
Mr. Rickard, yes.
Okay. All right. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Okay. Then I declare the nomination process closed. And we have two names in nomination. And I think the thing to do is for us to hear from the candidates who have been nominated and for any of the rest of the board to weigh in points of discussion. And so the first nomination was for Mr. Gutschall. So Kyle, I'm going to ask you if you'd like to tell us about your desire to be vice chair.
Just think that I can bring, I brought a different perspective to the school board 2 years ago. And I think that if I'm allowed the opportunity for a leadership role, that would kind of continue that. I have perspectives on things that nobody else at this table does. And, I think that I have a good working relationship with Mr. Barlow, and I think I can also work well with everyone else. I know many of you already. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds, but I just think that I would be a good leader and fulfill the duties that the vice chair with, the required duties. Yeah. And I would appreciate the opportunity.
At this point, I'll ask Mr. Ricker to address his candidacy for vice chair.
Thank you for the nomination. I appreciate the time to speak. I believe I'd be able to represent us all well, and I there again have grown to know Dennis very well over the last year. I believe my experience of having 3 kids come up through the school system has enabled me to gain the knowledge to do this. I wasn't thinking about the vice chair position previously before getting on the school board. However, when we had a meeting at orientation, a lot was spoke about your experience on school board and Kyle having 2 years on school board. So I didn't think much of it at that time. However, after talking to Dennis this past weekend on the telephone, I asked Dennis, I said, hey, when were you nominated for the position of vice chair? And it came to light that it was 2 years ago when he was elected. So to me, that took the experience of being on the school board out of the equation. Through my past 15 years of coaching kids in the town of Strasburg and getting to know the parents and having a wife that's worked in the school system for 10 years, I believe a leadership position, you should have some life experiences that bring to the position. That being said, I've got a lot of experience with the special education system in Shenandoah County. Having the wife that works for the school system, we have a close-knit core group of friends that are staff in Shenandoah County Public Schools. So I bring that knowledge to the table. I believe that I can be a good vice chair and work with all of you together.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Other members who would like to speak?
Well, I do have some
Lori?
remarks that I wanted to make, and I'm actually going to read from them because I want to make sure that I include everything and I'm very clear. I know we have been talking about this ad nauseum for the last few weeks, but I just wanted to make sure that my stance is clear on this. Because this is not anything personal, and I think it's a strong board would have this kind of competition. I wish we had somebody who wanted to run for chair, and we could have actually challenged you as well. But I believe that Mr. Gottschall is an admirable young man, and I don't know him very well, but I do know that he is very polite and very professional, and I truly appreciate that. I followed his very impressive journey since becoming appointed by the Shenandoah County Republican Committee many years ago while still in high school. And also his selection 2 years ago as a 19-year-old, which is very, very impressive. And in that respect, I believe that Mr. Gottschall serves a great role model for our kids, and I'm sure he has a very, very bright future ahead of him as he steps out of college and into the real world. However, what we're talking about here is a leadership position. And while some have represented this position to be just ceremonial, I actually think it's a little bit more important than that. And there are 2 issues that I think are very important. The first one has to do with the issue of succession. If you read the school board policy manual, the section B, which was adopted in 1996 and again revised in 2013, it states, and I'm quoting, that in the event that the chairman should vacate his office prior to the expiration of his term, the vice chairman shall fill the position of chairman for the remainder of the term. So it's not just one meeting, it's for the remainder of the term. So when we're voting for the vice chairman, what I see is we're voting for who can be the chair tomorrow, if need be. That would be for the rest of the term, not just one meeting. The second issue, and I know Mr. Barlow touched on this a little bit, is help decide what the agenda will be. And I understand, because even Mr. Gottschall confirmed this to me not long ago, that the chair and the vice chair would be meeting with the superintendent in deciding what the agenda is. So let me repeat that again, is in deciding what the agenda would be and what issues will be brought up. This is an important issue, and nothing to be dismissive about. If there's anything we've learned over the past few years, is how a chairman's abuse of his powers can be used to derail, stall, or abuse an agenda. I'm not saying that Mr. Gottschall or Mr. Barlow would be doing that, but I think it's important to have somebody who would be a good check and balance on who the chairman would be. There was a clear mandate this past election from the voters of Shenandoah County who want to see change here in the school board. This wasn't a popular gubernatorial election that typically energizes a lot of voters, nor were we endorsed candidates by any political party, as was the case 2 years ago. The voters came out to vote for us because they knew what we stood for. I mean, we were very clear in our agenda and in our mailings and in our meetings what we stood for, and they came out because they supported those issues. At this point, I don't believe that Mr. Gottschall has the experience and wisdom necessary for this position. That will come with life and career and family, and yes, some failures in life. This is not a leadership ladder. This is not a participation trophy that we give somebody just because they've been there for 2 years. This is how Mr. Barlow became the vice chair immediately after being elected 2 years ago. But instead, this is a position that will be significant in helping us decide what issues are considered by the board, and which will also help to manage any backlash or disruption or threats that we may get from that small group of people who are always going to be opposing anything and everything we say or do. The ability to deal with this is something that one cannot learn from books or by being told how to do it. This is something that is shaped by life experiences and the hard knocks of life. Personally, I believe Mr. Rickard would be a great choice for vice chairman. He is not only an outstanding man of integrity, a father, a spouse, a great friend, and a member of the community. He also has 3 children who have gone or are going through the system right now. This means that he doesn't just know how to deal with the issues within the system, but that he knows how to advocate for his children and students in the school as well. He has a wonderful, lovely wife who works in the school district, so he knows the ins and outs. He has been a coach, an active member of the community and of his church. And what's more, he has something that I don't believe any of us here has, and that is experience in trade. I believe that expanding on the successes of the triplet tech is one of the issues that I think we should be focusing on as a board. And Mr. Rickard has a great experience, and probably the best experience to help us guide that. I do want to say that the fact that this is not a unanimous decision and that there is actually some competition is actually a good thing. It gives our voters the reassurance that we're not just a rubber stamping board, but that we can actually have discussions and that we can have a position where needed. Having said all this, I want to make clear that should Mr. Gottschall become our vice chair, I do intend to actively work with him in making sure that the agenda that we run on, it gets brought up and passed when possible. I will support him as much as we can, or as much as I can. However, I believe this is a very important position, and that neither the line of succession nor who chooses the agenda should rest on the shoulders of somebody who's still in college. This is a sentiment that has been echoed by virtually everyone that I've spoken to in my district. And I just want to make sure that people understand that this doesn't mean that we will not be working together as a board. I'm hoping that once we have this vote and we decide who the vice chair is, we'll put it to rest and we'll be able to work together. Because again, this is nothing personal. This is just the kind of competition that we should have always in a democratic system. So I look forward to working with all of you.
Tom, do you have anything to say?
Well, the only thing I have to say is, as far as the vice chairman, I think, out of the 6, I think anyone is well qualified and good character and would make a good vice chairman. I think any of the other 5 would be a good vice chairman. So.
Okay. Brandy?
Yeah, there's a lot to unload there. First of all, Kyle is won by a landslide. I think it was like almost 63% in his district. At 19, his constituents that he represents didn't have a problem putting him to task regardless of his age and his experience. His voting record shows that he cares about his constituency. He has voted on budget issues. He has voted on WRE. He has voted to remove masks. There is nothing in his voting record that would indicate to me that he doesn't have any life experience or lack any kind of knowledge that he can't make up his own mind and his own decisions and stand on it. To suggest just because he doesn't have someone in the school system he's married to or hasn't raised kids would dismiss him from being able to run a meeting, which is what this is about, essentially. This is about if you're on vacation, if something happens to you, that he can run a parliamentary procedure and do it with fairness and with integrity. And I don't see anything in Kyle in the last 2 years that I've served with him that would indicate that that would be a problem. He serves with his Rotary. He serves with his church. He is involved in the community. He's as responsible as we can almost get for a 21-year-old or a 22-year-old. As far as life experiences, we send 18-year-olds off to war with a lot less and expect a whole lot more out of them than running a school board meeting. We have a very experienced, very well operating board here, and Kyle's built a lot of those relationships, and he can call almost any of you up, and I know that he gets answers, and he's inquisitive, and he operates, from my point of view, from a perspective of integrity. So, Mike, it's nothing personal, nothing at all, because I know you'd make a great vice chair. It's not that at all. For me, I don't have a problem backing Kyle for that position, and I don't know. I haven't had anybody in my constituency say, "Hey, Kyle shouldn't be it." I don't know if you've had anybody, there's been no emails, no correspondence that says, hey, keep that kid off of the backup, out of the batting cage. So I don't have, like I said, we're all entitled to our opinions, and that's fine. But I think Kyle will be fine to do that, and I think really, there's no position here, there's no decision that, while we've had folks in the past take liberties, they're slapped down once or twice before they don't do it again publicly. I don't see that of Kyle, because Kyle's pretty fair, but there's 6 of us. We were all nominated, or we all got here in the same way. There's not one of us with any more power than the other. That's not what this is about. So I'll close with that.
Thank you. You'll find that over the next couple of years, I'm not always going to speak, because parliamentary procedure kind of dampens the chair from impacting the group too much. On this topic, though, I will, for the simple reason that the vice chair position is one that is intimately involved with the chair's position, and therefore using sorry about this, you know, my military background, it's, the commander often usually has the ability to make strong input on the executive officer in that organization. So I'm going to take that prompt and say the following. First of all, when Mike, first time I saw Mike and he came forward from the back row and spoke to us, I was very impressed. And he, on that occasion, maybe you'll remember this, inveighed very passionately to the school board, and then he, I think in a very heartfelt way, implored us to search our souls and pray about the issue that was before us. And it was clear that he was sincere in his approach, and I have seen nothing that dissuades me from that sincerity. As a family man, as a worker, his initiative to get things done that we have in our minds to improve our system is just over the top. I find all these things, the recreation leadership that he's shown in Strasbourg and so forth, I find to be top drawer. So I welcome him as wholeheartedly as a member of the school board. Kyle has operated in a incredibly honorable way, dependable way, and has, to my knowledge, anything I've had anything to do with him on the board, has never failed to be where he was supposed to be, to do what he's supposed to do, and to show leadership, and which is remarkable. Are you 21 or 22? Everybody keeps
22.
Okay, 22. You're an old man already. I think he has shown remarkable discernment. And I will say that 21, 22 is not. I mean, at 21, I was prosecuting courts-martial, and there were people being found guilty and not guilty and being sent away for 20 years or being, I don't know which is better, sent back to the field in Vietnam. So there are precedents for 20-year-olds and 21-year-olds as lieutenants and otherwise taking leadership positions. And I think Kyle has shown himself to be dependable, trustworthy, and a man of integrity. And I value that in him. I think another thing that he brings is an ability to talk kind of cross-generationally, and he has a knowledge of technology and communications, I think, that has helped our board move ahead. So given the recent experience that he's had with the school board, I would recommend Kyle Gutschall for the vice chair position. That having been said, I'm ready to entertain a motion for election for vice chair.
Yeah, I'd like to move to nominate, or I'm working on 4 cylinders this evening, if I'm lucky. I'd like to nominate, or put a motion forth to nominate Kyle Gutschall for, or elect Kyle Gutschall for vice chair.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
Point of order, we don't need to second the motions.
Point of order?
We don't need to second the motions for the candidacies.
Well, we have one, so
Yeah.
it's irrelevant. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, should we do a roll call vote? So Cheryl, if you will do that for us?
So, I'm
Okay.
sorry, point of order. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna be asked who we're voting for now, or are we just voting on Kyle and then Mike?
We're just voting on Kyle
Correct.
as the vice chair, and if he wins the majority, then it's decided. So, but thank you for asking. That is indeed the motion on the floor. So the motion is for the vote for Kyle Gutschall as vice chair of the Shenandoah County School Board, 2024.
Is there any discussion?
Well, I think we had the discussion,
Well,
so
Was the discussion over? Or was the conversation still able to come back to me or Gloria? Or anybody else for that fact?
We can open it up for discussion. Everybody has to be able to speak at least once before somebody speaks a second time.
Right.
Everybody has spoken once, so if there is more to be said, then we can continue the discussion. Is there anybody who would like to be heard?
Well, I just wanted to point out, the only reason I would make myself available to be vice chair is I think it's important, just as you were vice chair, when you were newly elected, I think it's important for one of the three of us, newly elected members, to learn the position of chair. No better way to learn that position except being vice chair, being your right-hand man or woman. And I'd like to thank Gloria for her kind words, and Brandy, no need to feel offended because I take feelings out of these type of decisions. Kyle, I hope you're not offended in any way. If you're elected, I have no issue working with you. I've stated my issues. Like I said, I believe one of the three of the newly elected members should serve as vice chair under you and under your direction. And I'd be honored to do that if you all see fit.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I just want to briefly say, like I said before, but the quality is around the table with anybody, but I'm more entertained, and I don't want to get us hung up on, like it's another campaign thing going on here, and I'm looking forward to working for the whole board, working together. That's what I'm looking for, and really who's in charge or who's second, and it's just a matter of running the meeting. But it's important. What's important to me is we work together. That's what I'm want to focus on, not really focusing who's in charge or who's second in charge. And the next thing is, Mr. Gutshaw, you're 22 years old. You're not a kid anymore. Okay? You don't deserve to be called a kid. That's all.
Okay, anybody else? Okay. Cheryl, if you would do the roll call.
Mr. Street?
So the nomination is, the question on the floor is the acceptance of Kyle Gutshaw as vice chair of the committee, school board committee, school board member.
My turn?
Mr. Street?
Yes.
Ms. Carlenio?
No. No.
Mr. Gutshaw?
Yes.
Ms. Rhodes?
Yes.
Mr. Rickard?
No.
Mr. Barlow?
Yes. So the record will reflect 4-2. And we have a new vice chair, Kyle Gutshaw. Congratulations, Kyle. Our next action item is for nominations for the school board clerk. And Madam Superintendent, do you have any recommendations for us?
I do. I would like to recommend Cheryl Jett as the school board clerk. She has served in this role for several years now, and she does a phenomenal job. And I would like to see her continue to do that work as the clerk.
Do we hear a nomination that Cheryl Jett continue as the school board clerk of the board?
I nominate.
Go ahead.
Tom is fine.
Tom Street has made the motion, and you're seconding the
I
motion.
will second the motion.
Randy, okay, thank you. Is there any discussion? Do you have to do roll call on this one as well, Cheryl, or can we do voice vote?
Well, right now, we're at the nomination part.
Oh, we have to do another one?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'm pointing this the nomination, and then we'll move into the vote.
Okay.
So,
So I am ready to entertain a motion that Cheryl Jett act as in the role of 2024 school board clerk.
I move to appoint Cheryl Jett for the 2024 School Board Clerk of the Board.
A second.
The motion has been made by Mr. Cutshall, seconded by Mrs. Rutz. And Cheryl, you ready for the roll call?
Mr. Street?
Yes.
Ms. Carlenio?
Yes.
Mr. Gutschall?
Yes.
Ms. Roots? Mr. Ricker?
Yes.
Mr. Barr?
Yes. The next action is to select deputy clerk of the board for Shenandoah County Public School Board. And do you have a recommendation for us there?
I do. I would like to recommend Crystal Stickley as the deputy clerk of the school board. Crystal has worked in the school board office for many years, and she does a fantastic job. She has great relationships with people. I think she'll do a great job as deputy clerk.
Now, Cheryl, am I right that we have to do a nominating process before we can vote? It seems like it's a duplication of effort here, no?
Right, well, we do the nominations, they don't have to be seconded. You do the nomination and then you go into the actual vote. Like, because there could be more than one nomination.
True, okay.
I'd like to nominate Crystal for the position
Okay.
with some hesitancy. None at all, really, none. She'll be great.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, Tom Street has seconded the nomination. Any other nominations? If not, then I'm open for a motion for somebody to take this position of the deputy clerk of the board.
Move to appoint Crystal Stickley for the 2024 School Board Deputy Clerk of the Board.
A second. If we needed a second.
Cheryl, no one. You ready to?
Mr. Street?
Yes.
Ms. Carlenio?
Yes.
Mr. Gutschall?
Yes.
Ms. Roots?
Yes.
Mr. Ricker?
Yes.
And Mr. Barr?
Yes. I don't know if we should congratulate you or not, Crystal, but good luck. And thank you, we appreciate it. Moving on to the informational agenda, resolution on the agent and deputy agent for examining and approving payment of claims. Dr. Shepherd?
Thank you. School Board Policy DK outlines the process for authorizing the payment of the division's payroll and bills. This policy allows the board to appoint an agent and deputy agent to examine and approve the board's bills and payroll. This review process takes place 2 times per month. Following the bill approval process, either the agent or the deputy agent signs a warrant authorizing the payment. This warrant is then presented to the full school board monthly as part of the board's consent agenda. The 2 board members serving in this capacity for the 2023 calendar year were Cynthia Walsh as the agent and Brandy Rutz as the deputy agent. The Shenandoah County School Board will need to appoint an agent and deputy agent to examine and approve payment of bills. So this is for information and for action later.
Is there any other information we should have at the moment, or can we discuss here the people that we would like to see take this role?
This is where you would discuss the people that you would like to see take this role, and the resolution is attached to this agenda item if you needed to see that.
Okay, so a question I have is, so Brandy, you have been operating in this role in the past, and I would see that as being a source of continuity for us, if you're willing to do so.
I am.
You are, that's good news. And Kyle, we have been talking about financial responsibilities and oversight and so forth. And is this something that you would be interested in pursuing? Now, as I understand it, this is kind of a regular, is it monthly that you get together? And
It's bi-monthly. So, yeah, the checks come out, or what goes out, the bills go out twice a month. So someone would need to be able to review those and come by and sign the warrants, and so it can be paid. So what's been happening, we originally were meeting twice a month. However, because it's an official committee, we discovered that it would have had to have been publicized and open to the public. And because the bills get paid and we have a deputy that can sign off on them, the board, they are published, the bills are available to you in your consent agendas every meeting that you can review personally. But we ended up just doing it electronically, and Mrs. Walsh would come in and sign off if everything was good for both of us. There was only one time that I think in the last 2 years, because I've done this for the last 2 years, that I even questioned, and I think that was the IRS thing, and that ended up being a mess. But there's, like I said, you review, you ask questions. If there's something you want to see, and that goes for any of you. If there's a PO that you want to see, or you go and you look at all the financials, and you're like, what is this amount for? The folks in the financial department are very quick, very complimentary, and very, we'll shoot you that PO, and you're welcome to ask questions. But what it does is it signs it off so they can do their job.
So you said there is a resolution prepared?
Mm-hmm.
Is there anybody else who is interested in doing this position, or is this something that?
I just have a point of order.
Sure.
Is this a 1-year term, or is this a 2-year term?
It's a 1-year term. Yep, and I would recommend, I know Ms. Rutt says that they've been doing it electronically, the first time to be in person, so that questions and stuff can be answered, and so it makes the process a little more seamless. Yeah.
I do want to say it was gratifying that you did the kind of oversight you did, because it's workaday stuff, and yet it still needs focus and attention. And
Well, you learn where we're spending money,
yeah,
and
exactly.
what's getting done, and that kind of stuff. So it's pretty insightful. But no, I've enjoyed serving on that committee.
So at the organizational meeting next year, we will appoint an agent and deputy agent again.
Correct.
So at that point, it'd probably be useful to have somebody from the 3 newer ones, so we have continuity for the following term.
Actions later.
So, okay, so the action will be completed at,
Yeah, down here.
no, but I mean, now or?
Later. Yeah, we have to go through these informational
Okay.
items and then get to the action agenda.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, that was 2.1. 2.2, committee assignments for 2024. Dr. Shepherd, do you want to give us a kind of an overview, and then we'll be discussing these?
Certainly. In order to impact board member, to maximize board member impact, the board has established working committees. The board is also represented on various community entities and organization. Committee membership for the 2024 needs to be determined. According to our policy BCE, school board committees, the school board chair will assign school board members to the various standing committees. The recommendation is to discuss the committee assignments at this meeting, and then present the committee assignments at the January 11th school board meeting.
All right. I have a notional list of the committees and school board members proposed assignments. I've been just tinkering with this, and I've talked to each of you about your desires to serve on these committees. I need to say something a little bit about the committees. Let me pass these out in the meantime. I want to clearly indicate this is just a notional concept of mine based on input that each of you has made to me. So there will be, I don't know which of you folks need to have this, but I'll pass it out. And Cheryl, I'll email you one of these so you've got an electronic copy. I'm a color code guy. I haven't gotten over that yet, so sorry about that. First of all, a little bit about the committees and the changes that have occurred over the past half year. You have one now, Mike? Good. You all have one? Yeah. Okay. So you will recall, and I want to give a shout out to Brandy for helping us come to some, not conclusions about these, but bringing up the whole concept of the authorities for committees, how committees have to function, and which committees are actually viable. And so we did make a decision as a board last fall that two groups that had been considered committees are no longer advisory committees, but what I call functional committees. The one we've just talked about, which is the agent to approve bills, has an agent, alternate agent, and so if we go that route, then Kyle, you and Brandy will be the ones to conduct that function. No minutes are required. Correct. No report is required. It's a functional. The same goes for the agenda setting session. Kyle, what you and I, as representatives, will meet with the superintendent. We will carry the information from the school board members about what goes onto the agenda with the recommendations from the superintendent as to what informational and action items go on there. And those meetings occur monthly so that we'll be able to have enough lead time to get things there. So neither one of those committees function the way advisory committees work. Okay? Now, the advisory committee, like the building and grounds, finance and budget, instructional, policy review, transportation, and in the past, up till now, through now, personnel and insurance and employee benefits have been committees. And I don't think I'm telling anybody something you don't know when I say it's been more celebrated in its unuse than its use in terms of committees. We haven't really, until maybe this last year, gotten involved with some of these in a more active way as far as the school board, and yet I find them to be extremely helpful concepts. That is, I'm just going to I'll just pick one at random here, instructional. So Gloria, I know you've indicated an indication to be involved in that. It does not mean that you or alternate here is me. It does not mean that we are experts in that field. It doesn't mean that we know a great deal more than anybody else, but it does mean that when an issue comes up that involves the whole idea of instruction and instructional policy, that we as a committee, or you in the lead and me as an alternate, would be involved in that for an informational brief that's given by the staff, or if remedial action needs to be taken, or we think that there's some sort of policy spin that has to be put on it, or whatever other questions come up in that realm, it would behoove those of us on that subcommittee to find out more about it, to engage the representative on the staff through, of course, the superintendent's office, to find out more. And so that group or that person might actually take the lead on the school board for doing more about that. And Mike, I'm just happening to look at you from, so if we indeed do have a special education advisory committee, which of course already exists, and we participate in that, you know, under this laydown, you would be the committee prime for that particular topic. So as these issues bubble up, the person who is tagged with being the chair of that committee actually has a responsibility to find out what's going on, act as the interface, so when we have our work session meetings and our regular meetings, that person can be counted on to have a little bit more extra information as to what's happening and be able to define the question a little bit better for us. I think that'll help us prepare and save a lot of time at the work session meetings and actually at the other meetings. So I'm hoping we can make these, which I think are very valuable headings, work for us in committee. Two recommendations that I think we ought to consider before our next meeting is that nobody showed any particular interest in being on either the personnel or the insurance and employee benefits committees. And in my experience over the last 2 years, those issues are so ingrained in what is happening in-house with the staff that having us act as intermediaries just doesn't, we're not really value added. Although we might very well make decisions based on those, we would generally make those decisions based on recommendations we receive from the staff. Now, we can keep those, but then our span of interest gets longer. Already you notice that each of us, if you follow the little color coding diagram, each of us has our name down here 3 times, which means theoretically, not theoretically, but on paper, we're going to be responsible for having some interest in those 3 topics. Again, I don't want to oversell this because there's probably 1 or 2 of these where the person's alternate may not get involved all year. But what I've tried to do is, if you notice, after some names like Kyle for finance and budget, and Brandy for policy review, and Tom for career and technical education, the little asterisk indicates to me, at least on this sheet, that you are the prime on a topic that seems like it's important to our function. Now, I can be off base with any of this, all right? This is just my concept. What I'm asking you to do between now and the 11th is to let me know where this fails, which of these things doesn't work for you. Now, if each of us have 3 assignments, we can't all get exactly what we want, but you should be able to get 1 or 2 things that you're pretty interested in, and I've tried to listen to your points of view individually. But we do, since it is ensconced in policy, we will have to vote to jettison those other 2 in favor of this new list. And the additions to the new list include the Special Education Advisory Committee and Career and Technical Education, both of which I think we would agree are burgeoning topics that need to be dealt with, and therefore our cognizance of those committees and those topics is important to us. So I'd like to have us think about that and make input so that when we get back for the session on the 11th, we're ready to make a decision about where we want to go in terms of the committees and who's on the committees.
I only have one concern, and I do agree with you about us being spread thin among these. Nixon, the Personnel Committee, being new to the board, I don't know how big the Personnel Committee was before, but I know in my district we lost quite a few teachers last year quite a few sped teachers. I just hate to see that go by the wayside. I'd like to see us build up something to where we can retain these teachers longer, find out why they're leaving. I talked to quite a few that left that said their exit interview was multiple choice and they didn't fit any of those categories, so they had to write in their own, which wasn't an option. So I don't know if getting rid of the personnel committee is such a good idea. Was the personnel committee a big thing in past years?
So the Personnel Committee hasn't met in a while. I don't remember the last time the Personnel Committee met. But in closed session, the school board will get to see the resignation list, the retirement list, the appointment list, and we discuss those. We can discuss individual cases and information that we know. And also, after each of the exit surveys, our HR department follows up and asks if anyone wants to have a personal one-on-one conversation with the director of human resources. So there's that opportunity as well.
So let me respond to that, and then we'll continue because there's other comments here. So you raised 2 points, I think, that are germane here. One is that everybody here today is very concerned about a strategy we have for recruiting, retaining our best possible teachers, and we know that's a national challenge, and it's not gone unheeded. Not to say that we've decided on, found the golden horseshoe here. We haven't, but there's a lot of stuff going forward, and I noticed in the governor's new budget, there's a whole slug for that. So it is something that's gained attention and something we as a school board have to be. Now, under what rubric we put that, I'm not sure, but that certainly has to be, Bartlow's opinion, that certainly has to be one of the key items that we look at is teacher recruiting and retention. Again, if it falls under another or that one and we use that one, bring it back, that's fine with me. And it may be that some of these alternate things we just strike and move somebody into something else. So we have the ability to do that, but we just have to vote on it to change that, to make sure that we meet the criteria of creating the policy, these policies, the committees as we designate them. Brandy?
I had, I guess I'm like you. This one hasn't been active. And I think in my mind, because there's so much legal, when we talk about employment and there's, FERPA and, some sense of privacy, when we get to that, I don't know where the board's rubber meets the road and what we're allowed to know. There are certain things that, just like exit interviews, that would be beneficial to know what these reasonings are for why they're leaving. Now, we may not be able to know, how many are out on FMLA or which ones are out on FMLA, but, some of those numbers, and I don't know how much access the board has, and I think that might be something for legal that we push to and say, okay, so how much leeway do we have here to know about the employees under our, we have to approve your employment. You may hire them, but essentially it can come to the board and we can say, or, same with the terminations. We can definitely recommend folks not be, so I guess I'm wanting to know how much leeway do we have to know in personnel to be able to keep this committee beneficial, because it's a topic that we're going to talk about almost every single meeting. It comes up at budget, comes up the end of the year, comes up when we ask you in closed session, always how many positions we have open, how are we doing? So it's always a topic that sits at the top of the heaps. But I don't know legally how much of that information that we can know about to make it beneficial to have it. And if there's more leeway than what I'm familiar with, let's keep it.
Just because we don't have a committee doesn't mean we can't take up a certain time.
Correct.
So we don't necessarily need a committee. But indeed, if we find that's a good way to get a head start on these things, or to have a extra understanding or liaison with the staff, then maybe it is. So it's something we need to cogitate about and then talk about when we, or make a decision when we get back together. Gloria?
Well, that's basically what I was gonna say, because I guess when I first looked at this, I wasn't sure that this is what we were talking about in terms of the retention, but Mike does bring a really good point. This is something that came up again and again during the campaign, and teachers who have left, or teachers who are thinking about coming back, or what it would take for them to come back. So I think it would be, I don't know if this is a committee, or, I mean, I would tend to think that this would be the best position to have a formal committee where we can actually meet as a board, but also with the staff, and maybe even have it open so that however many of us want to be in that committee.
Well,
because
indeed,
that's basically what we got elected to.
It probably would be. In that, one of the things that we determine legally is that any meeting of these committees is now an official part of school board actions and activities. Ergo, it needs to be captured in minutes. Now, it doesn't have to be captured in verbatim minutes, but if you have a meeting of the curricular group and you and I get together to do that, whether we have somebody else or what, but it's an open meeting, others can come. We may want to be talking to members of the staff. We'll have to put down who's there. And then we don't have to, again, not verbatim, but what general things were considered and what decisions were made.
Does that have to be
So
publicized?
now this,
Only if there's 3 of us, right?
No.
no. If it's because it is an action. If it's 3 people together and talking business, then automatically that becomes a meeting, right? But 2 people together for the purpose of talking business that has a charter from the school board is by itself, a priori, it is a school board action.
So if an employee were to contact her and I, because she's District 5, I'm District 6, we represent Strasburg, and wanted to talk to us in private about a situation at the school, they couldn't do that in closed outside?
No, I think that would be fine, but because, again, you're not holding a meeting. It's a constituent question to you. You and another member of the school board can talk to them and talk about that.
No,
But it becomes different
Right.
when you, the committee has a scheduled meeting where it's trying to decide on a course of action and so forth, and so that's different than a constituent concern.
I guess the question is, because I think we're talking about 2 different things here that we need to clarify, is whether this would be a committee that is dealing with current employees and more personnel issues, or if we're talking about, as a board, we're talking about goals of what we want to do in order to retain and recruit more teachers. I think we're talking about 2 different things, and I guess I'm not sure what this committee does.
Well, I think that's the point, that so much of what we do, I mean, we as a school system do, revolves around personnel and personnel decisions.
But future personnel as opposed to
Well,
current.
but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There are so many ramifications of personnel decisions, retention, recruiting, then we get into other things like Brandy was bringing up before. So that's the question. Is this too big a committee? I mean, it's a committee of the whole almost. In other words, the individual, like recruiting and retention, or even those separately, probably are 2 things we want to look at separately, and they may not come under the rubric of a committee, because the committee is something that, if there's a building and grounds and there's a new plan someplace that comes up, and Mike wants to find out about that because he's got that, and so he wants to meet with people about it, then you can understand why meeting with somebody who's got that plan or whatever. But if we're trying to deal with something as massive as a personnel oversight. I think the board would have to deal with that as a whole,
Right.
which we do with most topics anyway. But this is the way that, these are way that small, what's it called, small, but small discussions and small meetings can give rise to something that eventually gets spawned into the school
I guess
board.
my question is, back whenever the committee did meet, what were they discussing? Were they discussing current personnel, or were they discussing the strategies and all that?
I don't think anybody knows because they hadn't met.
It has been that long?
No.
Okay, that was the question.
One of the things that we did a couple of years ago is we added work sessions to our, so we meet at the beginning of the month for a school board meeting, and then there's a work session. And the work session was supposed to minimize the number of committee meetings, because then we can talk about things at the work session that we wouldn't necessarily talk about during a formal school board meeting. So that was the intent, and I think we do have those conversations during work sessions that take place of committee meetings.
However, if I could, just for clarification, so we had the issue at Peter Muhlenberg with the sinkhole or whichever. I believe you and Andrew met and discussed that. You and I met as a policy committee with the librarians. Because those committees are chartered by the power of the school board, they have to be publicized and open to the public, and they in the newspaper 3 days, and anybody is able to do that. That is different than a teacher coming and having coffee with you and I about something going on, because the board has given these power. Then when it meets, two of us together, just two of us as a committee, it follows the same rules as of business, that it would have to be publicized and open to the public and things done.
Before you get to Mike, hold on one second. Let me tag on to something Mela just mentioned, which is really important, which is, 2 years ago, there was just regular sessions. Everything had to happen under Robert's rules, and if it wasn't a motion, we really couldn't talk about anything. So the work sessions are more like we're doing right now, around the same set of tables, and which allows us to have some good give and take and talk about these things before we meet at the next meeting, which is a formal, regular meeting. So it does obviate some of the need for committee work. On the other hand, that's where committee reports, or hey, why don't you do so, actually come into play. So they're kind of reinforcing concepts here, but it is very important, I think, that we have those work sessions where we can get a lot of this stuff out on the table. I'm sorry, Mike, go ahead.
Well, I think I want to tag on to what Gloria was saying. I didn't want to make it sound like the personnel committee would be for complaints from teachers and staff, but more so teachers and staff being able to come and give points of view and ideas about how we could recruit better teachers, retain them better, and then for that committee to come up with ideas or whatever. Because I mean, having a wife that works for the school system, everybody's paid based on their years of service. This teacher may be way up here when it comes to teaching, and this teacher may be down here when it comes to teaching. But because they've been here the same amount of time, it's to my understanding, they make the same amount of money. So where can we come up with ideas of taking care of this teacher that is going above and beyond? Stuff like that.
Well, I mean, we don't need a policy committee to do that. I mean, or a personnel, any kind of personnel committee. In other words, that's why we're here. So if that's an idea you have, you bring it in, we have the staff tell us what they do. We think if there's a way to improve that or create or help the policy so that helps them out, that's what we're doing. That's why we're here.
And it might be beneficial to look, I think Warren is keeping their personnel, I got asked if we had a personnel committee, and I think they're keeping theirs. It might be worth reaching out to some other districts to say, hey, do you have this, and tell me what you all do, because essentially we're going to, if you want to keep the committee, we have to rebuild on what it does.
Well, I just want to make sure the teachers, the staff, they're heard. They feel
Right.
like they have a voice at the table.
Right, and if that's what you want them as a sounding board, I mean, then we can certainly discuss that.
Bottom line, if there are changes you want in this thing, let me know. If you want to swap with somebody else, that's the easiest way to do it. If you think there are policy, a group that we should move personnel or anything else back up there, or can something else, but if everybody did this, it would be more than anybody's ever done. And I'm not saying that would be a good thing, but because we could just be spinning wheels too. But at least to have somebody that we can go to as a board and say, CTE proposals coming up, we'd like you to be there and be part of it, and so at least we bring in some member of so that the whole board doesn't have to be there, but we bring in a representative who hears what's going on and can bring it back to the school board. A related, I didn't pass these down to you guys, did I? Yeah.
I've got a stack here.
We do have representatives from our school board that can participate in other boards or with other boards. And I think I left off, I think this is the one that has, we added the weekday religious education
Yes.
to this group too.
Yes.
And I left that off. Shame on me. Now, these are, I was just I'm spitballing on these, but at least you can take a look at these. And in board docs, it lists what these organizations do and who they are. So if you have any questions about what it is that they do and who they are, how they function, take a look in the documents in board docs and see if any of these are things that you would like to do. Again, these are certainly spitballing. I think, Gloria, personally, I'd like to see you kind of coordinate with the Massanutten folks and work with them. Now, I know we got with three of you are very interested in Parks and Recreation. My take is that after seeing what's kind of how Parks and Rec is blossoming, and also how they're, the coordination with the school system and what that entails is going to be fairly important to us. So I got 2 or 3 names down there, but and then Mike, I think it made sense if you're doing the other special ed stuff that you would be part of this the regional program as well. It keeps you in that same wheelhouse. And Kyle, I have no idea if you're interested in doing Starnes Trust, but I'll find out over the next week or so. So anyway, so they're laid out here in ones that other people have taken on in the past. And I just have notional names down there. And I did not include on this the weekday religious education. And it was a shortfall on my place. So if that's something you'd like to do, let me know and I'll make sure we capture it. So we would like to finalize these assignments at the meeting on the 11th. Please.
Yep. So the Massanutten Regional Governor School meets quarterly during the day, typically right around lunchtime. The Shenandoah Valley Regional Program meets quarterly, so 4 times a year in the morning, and the meeting is in Community College, Blue Ridge Community College, and it's usually on a Monday in the morning. Starnes Trust meets 1 time per year, and it's usually during the day. And then the Lawrence Lucas Foundation is the same, meets typically 1 time during the day per year. Shenandoah County Parks and Rec are evening meetings. And then WRE are evening meetings as well.
4 o'clock.
Okay. Yeah, but I just wanted to make sure you were aware. The committees on this page are more flexible because it's people here, except for the Special Ed Advisory Committee, and that schedule's already been set for the year, but next year it could be a little more flexible.
Thanks, Melanie. Appreciate it. So just filter any information you have to me, if you want to ahead of time, or just come on the 11th. But it'd be nice if we had a lay down ready to approve.
I don't see me being able to make those Monday morning meetings.
Let's, yeah, we'll talk and see if there's either somebody else or some other way it can be done. All right, so, we're on to 2.3, the revised 2024 school board meeting schedule and the revised budget development calendar. Dr. Shepherd?
So the two attached calendars are revised, and we're going to ask for you to vote on these a little later in the agenda. But it has all of the meetings starting at 7, and also it changes the work session meeting from Thursday to Monday. So those are the main changes in the two calendars.
So our actual school board meeting would not start until 7 o'clock?
So 6:30 for the closed session, and then 7 o'clock for the actual meeting, and then the work sessions would start at 7 o'clock as well.
So that, I mean, those are the same times we've had.
Yeah.
The school board meeting, the same, we're not changing anything with that.
No, the work sessions we would change.
What time were the work sessions previously?
5.
Always changing is the time.
Yes, and day from Thursday to Monday.
Oh, okay.
2.4 is recommendation of designee to attend meetings of the school board in the absence of the division superintendent. Dr. Shepherd, I believe we've had this policy in the past, and it will continue, as I understand it.
That's correct. So policy BCA requires the school board to appoint on an annual basis a designee in case I'm not available. And I would recommend that Dr. Dave Heingartner, the assistant superintendent, be that designee. My father passed away a couple of years ago, and Dr. Heingartner was able to step in without a hitch and conduct the meeting.
All right, I think we're ready to move on to the action items. So 3.1 is a resolution on the agent and deputy agent for examining and approving payment of claims. Do we have a motion to appoint our agent and deputy agent?
Yes, on this, and I'm not sure exactly how you want to, the agent, I would actually like to be alternate agent and Kyle agent. He's got more access to travel and to come in and sign that document with me working in Northern Virginia at least 2 days a week. That might prove troublesome, and I don't want to hold them up, but he's local, so he would be able to do that, so.
Okay, this works for you?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
All right. Do we have a motion on the floor to appoint Kyle and Brandy to these positions?
Is anyone else interested in it? Tom?
No.
I move to appoint Kyle Gutschall as the agent and Brandy Rutz as the deputy agent to examine and approve the school board's bills and payroll.
Thank you.
Is that a second?
As second.
Okay. The motion has been moved and seconded. We need a roll call vote for this, Cheryl?
Mr. Street?
Yes.
Ms. Carlenio?
Yes.
Mr. Gutschall?
Yes.
Ms. Rooks?
Yes.
Mr. Ricker?
Yes.
And Mr. Barber?
Yes. And that passes 6-0. 3.2. The revised school board meeting schedule and the revised budget development calendar. So we did talk about the times for the school board. How about have we discussed how the budget development calendar fits into that, or is it just subsumed under those meeting times?
So the budget, pull it up real quick, meeting calendar is, sometimes we started those at 5 or 5:30, and
I see.
those times have moved
Okay, so,
as well, so yes.
okay.
So there, sometimes there are a few more meetings in a month, like in January. We're going to meet today, we're going to meet January the 11th and then the 22nd. So during budget season, sometimes there's an extra meeting during the month.
I know we had discussed it. Are we gonna have the work sessions here? I know you maybe had mentioned having them at school, or is that?
Yep, so right now they're scheduled for here, but we can consider having them at the schools. I think it would give our school board members a perspective of our schools and the shapes that they're in, and an opportunity to visit each of the schools at different times.
I'm glad to hear that. I thought it was really valuable to be in each of the schools and to just to see it, smell it, experience it. And even just us being there is probably a signal to the schools that we'd like to be involved, we'd like to be there, so that sounds good. Anyway, but what we're concerned here with is the calendar as it has been presented. So do I hear a motion that we accept the budget, or excuse me, the calendar as it has been proposed?
I move to approve the revised 2025 budget development calendar and the revised 2024 school board meeting schedule as presented.
Second.
Second by Kyle?
Mr. Street?
Yes.
Ms. Carlinia?
Yes.
Mr. Gutschall?
Yes.
Ms. Ritz?
Yes.
Mr. Lippert?
Yes.
And Mr. Barlow?
Yes. Okay, now, for the slam dunk of the night, I think so. The 3.3, appointment of designee to attend meetings of the school board in the absence of the division superintendent. What the recommended action is there? Anybody want to make that motion?
I move to appoint Dr. David A. Heingardner as the designee of the superintendent to attend meetings of the school board in the absence or inability of the superintendent to attend for the period of January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2024.
Didn't we already do this?
No.
On
We talked about it.
2.4? Oh, 2.4 was the discussion?
Yes, and this,
Information, yeah.
I apologize. I'll second. Ms. Rutz?
Thank you.
Gerald, it has been moved and seconded.
Mr. Street?
Yes.
Ms. Carlinia?
Yes.
Mr. Gutschall?
Yes.
Ms. Ritz?
Yes.
Mr. Lippert?
Yes.
Mr. Barlow?
Yes. There is no provision at this meeting for school board comments, but on the 11th there will be. And it's been an evolving process, and I think we've gotten to the point where we have actually had substantive discussions and ideas come up, and our norms indicate to us that that's the place where we're supposed to broach the ideas that we would like to see come to fruition. So I invite you to consider those comments that you make during the school board comments, and that they have some substance to them. I mean, if you want to talk about something else, that's fine, but I think the norms make it clear that that school board comments are supposed to be kind of the genesis of what it is that we think is important work for us to undertake in the future.
I have a question. Because I don't think we've discussed this. So if we have policies that we want to introduce for the school board, I mean, what is the procedure to doing that? Do we do this at a meeting? Do we do it before the meeting? Do we email everybody? How exactly are we doing that?
The way that it would normally be done is that, again, raise the issue at, let's say, at the school board member comments. The norms actually make provision for discussion that would actually be directed to the superintendent about, we're kind of interested in this, and the superintendent will let us know, you know, I got it, I got your concern. I'll probably have some folks from the staff come and give you an information brief on that topic and where we are. And then we will take that information from that kind of brief, that kind of information, and see if there's anything further that we think needs to be done to improve that, or to change it, or just to know about it. So, so generally, the genesis of an idea from the school board will make its way to superintendent's office and then back to us in an information brief, which could generate an action.
What if we want it on next week's meeting?
Then we need to have a long time so that people can be informed. And once upon a time,
Well, that's the idea, is to put it on next week's meeting as informational.
that's correct. And so almost invariably, it will be the case that an information brief will precede by a meeting the action on the item, so that there, in a perfect world, there'd be basically a 3-month gestation period for this, where the idea, you know, is broached, when then an information brief would be given to, we get spun up on this issue and so forth, and then if there's something that needs to be done based on that, then there's action taken the following meeting.
Well, I mean, specifically, I'm talking about, for example, the model policies and what
Yeah.
we're going to be presenting. This is something that has been going on since the summer.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to be presenting our version for that, do I bring it up at the meeting on next week, or do I distribute it to our board members before then?
I think there's zero problem with your getting in touch with 1 or 2 members. Remember, that you can't get hold of 3 of us, we can't have an ad hoc meeting and talking about that. But you're perfectly right in observing that there are several of these things that are actually in process now, and we don't have to reinvent. I mean, there's been discussion already on, like, let's say, the transgender policy that will continue, and on other topics that I'm sure that's in your mind now, and we need to bring those up at the.
So I should just bring it up at the next meeting?
Yes.
Or, okay,
Yes.
so bring the draft.
No, yeah, we're not going to do it at the
meeting.
organizational meeting here, but again, those ideas can also be brought up at the work session meetings as well, which is another reason to have those informal discussions, so that we can kind of talk some of it out a little bit. Yes.
My only concern is, you talk about these other policies. It's been my observance, past board, no blame to the 3 that are here now, that the can's kind of been kicked down the road on a lot of these policies. How do we discuss these to get them moving forward? If you have other policies, this is the first I'm hearing about it, under the governor's model policies, when do we discuss those and start moving forward with something?
Immediately. But, I mean, there's been the case, as you well know, that in the past, there's been a general 3-3 split, which has kept a lot of motions on both sides, frankly, from being brought up, because they weren't going to get a majority. So the time is here to take a look at those. But I caution, it's been my observation that there have been 2 ways in which this has been, the system has kind of been gamed. One is, as you've noted, drawing something out so that it like never has a culmination. And the second is, you know, bring it up today, vote on it tomorrow, and it goes into effect in 7 days, which isn't the way to do things either. And so I think the closer we stay to the model of bringing it up in a timely fashion so that it so that people have a chance to know and find out about it, is what we want to strive to achieve.
So
So-
sorry,
Oh,
so
go ahead.
initially, Gloria, if she has something that she would like to propose, she's gonna bring it to our next meeting. She's gonna state something in her board comments that she'd like to discuss with us. She's gonna then forward it to the superintendent, who's going to put it on our agenda to discuss for informational and to talk about it. We'll probably go through a work session and a regular meeting because the work sessions can't have any public comment. So we'll, at the end of this month, it'll be a February, whatever that meeting date is. The 8th, it would be, possibly talked about or put on for an informational, and then the earliest we could vote on it would probably be March. Yeah. Because we'd have to give time, it'd have to make the agenda. The next meeting would be a work session, there's no public comment. We'd have to have public comment, so it would be the March meeting.
Well, I think that was the idea
Yeah.
of you bringing it up tonight, is you'd like to see it on the informational for next week's meeting?
Right.
Well, and another thing is, before we have the agenda setting meeting with the superintendent, is to have you let us know, Kyle and I know, me, that you're interested in something that we bring in because it's my responsibility to bring in the concerns that you have that you would like to see on the agenda, whether it's an information request or whether it's an action that you would contemplate turning into some sort of policy or some sort of action, that we get it on the agenda.
So you all will be having an agenda setting meeting sometime between now and next Thursday?
That's correct, is it
So
not?
it'll be between now and Friday because the agenda has to go live on Friday.
Gotcha.
Yes.
So if I submit that before Friday, is this something that can be put up on the next agenda for the next meeting next week as an informational issue? So then we could actually vote on it in February.
That's possible, but I want to caution that just because we have a topic doesn't mean we're going to be able to get all the information which is germane to that topic in that short amount of time. We may need more time to get information about where we are, what needs to be done, and more discussion among the group. But it begins with having it brought to the attention of the superintendent so that we can see where we are with the staff and and it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody in the board is going to agree with that policy.
Sure. No, and I understand that, but
Yeah.
I guess the reason why I was thinking in terms of that timing is twofold. One is this is a policy that has been out since last summer, so people should already be kind of familiar with this.
Are you talking about the
The model
transgender
policies.
policy?
Yeah, the
Okay.
model policies,
Yeah.
and just gonna be tweaking with some things.
Yeah.
But also because further on, we're gonna be busy with the budget and all that kind of stuff, and I know that's gonna take up a lot of our time. So I'd rather just take this out of the way and,
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, that has a topic that's been out there.
yeah.
It's been discussed. I think that we're ready to have a discussion as to what that policy needs to look like if there's any changes.
I guess her question really is can she do it during an organizational meeting, or does she have to do it during a board, the first official board meeting to be able to put that forth?
Well,
Not for a vote.
No, right, just to put it on the
Right.
agenda.
Yes.
well, I mean, as soon as we adjourn, Gloria can say, I would like you to bring this topic up
Yep.
next, in 2 days when you have, and so it will be.
Yep.
So, yeah,
There you go.
that's indeed,
Bless you.
just trying to get, what I was trying to get across in terms of, the chairman does, you let me know what it is that you want brought up, and it's my job to carry that. And again, it'll take some interpretation of, how it impacts the staff, information that's already out there and so forth that we're going to have to work through. But nevertheless, we get that topic on there as a ping that we want started. And at least we've got the process underway.
Got it. Thank you.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. You have time and, of course you do.
I have 2 times, I'll let you choose.
This has been here.
And Angie needs something from Kyle as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's very dry here, so.